Hey gang, how's everybody doing? I am Joe Edelman, your host, and thank you for tuning in for another live episode of The Last Frame. As always, you know the drill. Please, if you're here, check in, leave a little note in the chat, let me know you're here, and let me know where you're watching from. It's always cool to see where people tune in from. Already, I've got Joe in Australia, happy tomorrow. Let's see, we got Brian in Pittsburgh. Darren just snuck in here from California. Danny in Vegas. Danny, I hope I'm going to see you next week. Robert in New Jersey. Lynn in New York. Alvin's down in Virginia. Canadian Saurus Rex in Montreal. I got Mar in Netherlands. Let's see, who else here? Aussie 2 is, I'm assuming, down in Australia tomorrow also. Gang, thanks for being here, as always. And hey, listen, if you're not here live, if you're watching the replay, leave a note in the comment. Let me know you checked in. Let me know that you watched. And if you have questions, leave questions, and I'll take those questions up in a future episode of The Last Frame. So a little bit of business, and then we'll get into our gear discussion tonight. And you guys know how much I love gear discussions, right? But a couple of things I want to make sure that I've got you guys all up to speed on. I mentioned most of these last week, but they're important, so I'm going to mention them again really quick. Number one, if you haven't been to my website in a while, you might want to take a visit because I have put my full portfolio back on the website. Now, what does that mean? Why didn't I have my full portfolio on the website before? Simple. When I became an Olympus visionary, my portfolio up to that time was shot mostly with Nikon, a little bit of Sony, mostly with Nikon. So I removed all the Nikon and Sony images out of respect for Olympus, and obviously everything I showed was shot just with Olympus. Now that I'm no longer an ambassador, I've gone ahead and I've added that back in. Even my fine art nude portfolio's in there. So whole bunch of images you can check out. Also, two really, really important events that are coming up over the course of the next month. Starting the end of this month, so 2 weeks away, really, really close. WPPI is happening in Las Vegas. I will be in Las Vegas and presenting February 28th, which is the day before the trade show opens at the Mirage. I will be doing the future of LED lighting. So it's a seminar. It's a 90-minute presentation talking all about LED lighting in terms of what do you really need to pay attention to, because CRI is not the magic thing that everybody thinks it is. So we'll be dealing with all the nitty-gritty so that you can make better buying decisions for LED lights. And of course, we're going to do some shooting with LED lights and shoot some cool portrait shots. The folks at So Trendy who make the really cool maternity gowns, well, they're doing more than maternity now. They're going to be there. They're going to be dressing my model and providing me some really cool materials and that blow around. So we're going to do some of my fun, calm in the middle of chaos beauty work at WPPI. And then on Sunday, March 1st, which is day one of the expo, I'll be doing a photo walk, 10 o'clock in the morning outside the Mirage. It is beauty on location. And we're going to take the same kind of beauty shots that I do, but we're going to work outside. Found locations, found light, maybe a little bit of LED to enhance, but we're not dragging all kind of lighting around. We're going to keep it simple, but we're going to go out and we're going to produce really, really cool fantasy portraits on that photo walk. So that's coming up. And then a little bit later in the month, basically another week and a half down the road after WPPI, Visual Storytelling Conference. First time I presented for these folks. It's still going to be virtual this year. So all of you, doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can attend this conference and you can attend my talks. So there are two of them. In fact, I'm going to grab one of the links here, okay? On March 11th, which I believe is a Friday, if I'm not mistaken, I am going to be doing a presentation called Shoot Beauty, the psychology and techniques behind photographing beauty. If you like the kind of work that I do, the fashion fantasy portraits, and you want to try it, you need to attend this talk, period. Start to finish, A to Z, all the nuts and bolts. It's everything about how I do these shoots, how I find the models, how I plan them, how I come up with the ideas, all of it. Don't miss it. Again, it's free, okay? And then also on March 13th, for those of you that are trying to make money as photographers who want to get into business or are in business, maybe struggling a little bit, a presentation, which is a fun one because I love the title. If you have all the business you need, don't attend this presentation. And basically, it's it's kind of a kick in the butt kind of presentation, but it gives you a lot of really, really good information about how to market and structure your business in today's marketplace as a portrait photographer, or for that matter, any kind of photographer. So check those out. They're absolutely free. Those are coming up. One other thing that I want to pass along for you guys, and we're going to talk about this in a future episode, as it relates to me and to some of you, but I know a lot of you have been hearing about these NFTs, non-fungible tokens, okay? And they, hands down, are somewhat divisive at this point in terms of how people feel about them, what they think about them. I have not done an NFT yet, so don't worry. But a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, a photographer who I have mad respect for, Mr. Scott Bourne, who was also a fellow Olympus visionary. He's the bird guy. Man, if you want to see the most amazing images ever of birds of any kind, you need to check out Scott's website. But Scott has just launched an NFT, and I'll give him credit. You know, Scott's the GOAT, man. He's the guy. He is like the OG of bird photography, but he embraces technology. He is all about trying out this new stuff. And he wanted to do one NFT just to be able to say he's done it, to get it out there and try it. And it just went live. So I shared the link in the chat. You should check it out. It's an amazing picture. And if you're interested in the story behind the picture, just to give you a sense of how images like this happen, because, you know, again, frequently, just like with my images, you see these really cool pictures and it's like, wow, that's really neat. And you really have no sense of how much went into really making that image. Scott has a blog article on his website. I'm also going to share the link with that actually breaks down how he made the shot and how long it took him to get this image and the whole process. So I would encourage you, check it out because it's a really cool breakdown, a lot of really good information. But I just wanted to share that out there because, you know, I think it's cool that he's diving in and trying it out. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to or not. I have a couple images that I think would work well, but I have mixed feelings about it. So we're going to talk about it because on one hand, there are photographers making a boatload of money with NFTs right now, you know? So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, well, is it a bad idea to ignore it? I think it is a bad idea to ignore it. That doesn't mean you got to jump in and do it. But I think every photographer should be paying attention on multiple levels, right? There's the business opportunity level. There is the copyright aspect and ownership aspect of it. Because, I don't know, I worry that it's going to get a little bit messy down the road. But you know what? We'll see, right? So anyway, more to come on NFTs. So that being said, if you saw the title slide for tonight's last frame, the headline, the big announcement, Sony did not release a new camera this week, right? So I figured I know that I'm going to like get people all worked up with that to begin with, because number one, I said Sony didn't release a new camera, which of course they didn't. That wow on the screen, that was all about the wow camera from Olympus or OM Digital Solutions or OM System, depending on how you want to refer to the company. But their new camera came out this week, the OM1. In fact, actually, I'm going to switch my screen over here. So, whoops, that was the wrong button. Let's go to that one. It's going to look a lot better. Cool. So, a couple of things. So just some reminders. Number one, I am not sponsored by Olympus. So this is not a sponsored video. I do still own quite a few Olympus cameras, like 6 of them, actually, and a whole ton of Olympus lenses. I am indeed using a Sony camera for my studio work right now, and I'm getting ready to purchase a second Sony body, which will be the A7 IV. I'm currently using the A7R 4A, okay? So I will, work with those 2 bodies for studio work. I'm not getting rid of Olympus. It's not going anywhere. So I know a lot of people in the last couple of days have been asking, so are you going to get the new cameras, right? Are you going to buy them? So, of course, the downside is I have to pay for them now, I bought my original Olympus gear and bought into the system, but then, one of the perks of being an ambassador is you get free gear along the way. Not that it was all free, but I got a fair amount of free gear, which was really nice, okay? So leading up to the announcement this week, I honestly didn't pay a whole lot of attention to, what the rumors were. There's always rumor sites out there, and the rumor sites have gotten pretty good with the Olympus gear in terms of, nailing down the specs. My understanding is they had pretty much most of it right. There's always a couple things that they don't anticipate or they don't know about, but I think they got most of it right this time around. So, I'll tell you overall, my first impressions on the camera, and obviously I have not seen it, I have not handled it, I have not shot with it. So everything I'm basing it on is, number one, specs. Number two, the reviews of some photographers who I have a lot of respect for. Number one, I will tell you is an Olympus visionary who I know personally, Mr. Peter Baumgarten up in Canada. He was one of the Olympus ambassadors that had the camera early and used the camera, was able to, do quite a bit of work with it and did stuff that Olympus is using to promote the camera. And also, believe it or not, the guys at DP Review, when it comes to reviews, their reviews are pretty much no nonsense. The only thing you have to know about DP Review is it's very rare that they're going to trash a piece of gear, but they are usually at least very honest and very level with the information that they provide. And I respect that. There's no sky is falling stuff like you get from the gray-haired guy. There's no inaccurate information, none of that stuff. So for my choices, those are the sources that I tend to, respect. So, I think a lot of people were expecting, I was going to dump all over this and say it's a piece of crap or, it's disappointing or this or that. Look, certainly we always want a new camera comes out. We always want to be wowed and, we want to be blown away. I think a lot of people that I've seen in a lot of the Facebook groups they're dedicated to Olympus users and that have been talking about this being kind of almost like incremental changes and they expected something more. And there's still people out there that are looking for a full frame sensor out of this company. It's never going to happen. They've been very honest about that. And I don't think it should happen. I think it's smart for them that it's not going to happen. There are still people that are insistent, like, we got to have more megapixels. We need at least 24 megapixels and all this. I'm not so sure that's going to happen for a long time. And I don't think it needs to happen. So my thoughts are, I think OM System has done actually a really great job with this camera. I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to get my hands on it, which won't happen until they're on the street in March, because it's not like they're going to send me one. They have made what we could argue are incremental upgrades, but I would argue they're the right upgrades. It is a brand new sensor, which is, an absolute great change. It's a stack sensor, which means it's the 2-layer sensor, which basically, without getting super, super techie, it allowed them to implement a new color engine, which is the TruePic 10 color engine, which, again, without getting super techie, because I'm not super techie about gear, the short answer is it allows more dynamic range. I think it's about a stop, but still, that's good. And also, it allows for better, more accurate, and faster autofocus when combined with the fact that now the entire sensor has autofocus, the full screen has autofocus, and obviously the camera's got different processors in it than previous cameras, etc. So that sensor change is a big, sorry, excuse me, I forgot. Part of the stack sensor thing is also better low light reproduction. Gosh, duh, okay? So it expands the range of low light capabilities without, running into issues with noise, etc. So, that's the big stuff, which at least the stuff that I think is really, really important. They've increased shooting speed capability, up to 120 frames a second in Pro Capture. It still has the 80 megapixel high res on a tripod, 50 megapixel handheld, which, is an Olympus feature that doesn't get talked about enough, right? Obviously, for the kind of work I do, shooting people or even just shooting my grandkids, that's not really a particularly functional feature for me. But for landscape photographers, architectural photographers, real estate photographers, you know what? That kind of stuff is like seriously a really, really big deal. So all in all, and there's a ton of new video features. Um, you know, if I'm being honest, the video features I don't care about. And the only reason I say that is for people that are using OM cameras for video, I think that it is Sharky James. Hey, man, how's it going? You must be bored tonight if you're hanging out with me. It's great to see you. I don't think that Olympus is ever truly going to get its due when it comes to video. And that's because early on in video, so it's nothing against the camera system or the quality of the video. I think their video is great. But early on, when it came to video, obviously Panasonic and other companies put a lot more effort into video. So when it comes to third-party support, meaning accessories, there is so much more stuff. Yes, so bored, Sharky. I'm sure you must be, man. But there is so much more stuff that's available for other brands. And unfortunately, Olympus just doesn't have a lot of third-party support for the cameras, which makes it really tough for people that are seriously into video, right? The upgrades that they've made, awesome upgrades. Absolutely. But I don't know that that's necessarily going to, gain a lot of traction, et cetera. So the big question is, people said, will you buy the camera? My answer, honestly, is maybe. So considering now that obviously I'm going to, if I were to buy it, it would come out of pocket. There would be a couple of things that would have to happen for me. Number one, I won't buy one camera. Like, I won't lie to you. The idea that I'm going to buy a Sony a7 IV so that I have some features that the a7R IV-A isn't particularly good at, that annoys me. It does. That is not a perfect shooting situation for me. It is important to me to have at least two cameras that are identical. But the good part of it is those Sonys, they stay in the studio. They don't leave the studio. They don't go anywhere. They're studio cameras. That's it. So for Olympus, for me to upgrade to the OM1, I would need to purchase two of them, which means I would get rid of my OM1, yeah. Okay, my EM1 Mark IIIs, okay? There's too many OMs and EM. It's like, wait, I've got to think before I say it. So I would get rid of my EM1 Mark IIIs and then, potentially make the change. But since it's a brand new camera, new processor, a lot of new technology, new sensor, etc., I'll wait until it's on the street. I'll wait until we see some, shall we say, real world images. I've seen a lot of Peter's images, Peter Baumgarten's. They're amazing. I know 100% hands down, they're not doctored. There's, been no voodoo done to them. Not from Peter, but, yeah, I'll wait until the camera's on the street. It gets, it gets handled a little bit more, gets used a little bit more, and I get a chance to handle it. But I think that, the key here for OM system, I think it's a great upgrade. One of the things that they do not get enough credit for as a company, they didn't get enough credit for this when they were owned by Olympus, and they're not getting enough credit on it now, because honestly, the entire photography industry should be perked up and really excited about some of the features that are in this camera. Olympus continually introduces new technology, new ways to do things, etc. And, unfortunately, because there are certain YouTubers and certain media outlets that want to base everything on full frame technology, and they're going to judge the camera against full frame technology, it's just always going to be an uphill battle for this company. So even with the fact that they decided to walk away from people shooters and studio shooters, which, sure, that stings, right? I think they're doing the right thing, because I think that it keeps them viable as a company. It allows them to find a new, younger audience and to basically grab people that are migrating from smartphones into camera systems that are small, lightweight, easy to carry. So I think very, very smart move. But what I will do, the American website, getolympus.com, does have a lot of the specs on it. I'll share this for those of you that are interested. But here's a little tip, especially for you Micro Four Thirds shooters and Olympus shooters. Anytime you want to get like the really hardcore information from Olympus on the Olympus cameras, go to Asia Olympus website. They have the full data text sheet, like spelled out, and tons of detailed information about the camera, more so than what you find on getolympus.com. The downside to the Asian site is their sample photographs are not good. I mean, I'm just going to be real with you. Their sample photographs are not at all impressive. If you look at the sample images that are being shot in the UK, Australia, in the US, they're amazing, and they truly show the capabilities of the cameras. So yeah, don't be too swayed by the sample images they use on the Asian website. I really don't understand their thought process behind a lot of the images that they select to show off what the camera does. But on the Aussie website, the British website, and the US website, you see some brilliant photography. So, okay. All right. So we've got time. We got a bunch of questions and comments in here. So I'm going to work backwards, and then we'll come back to, actually, you know what? No, let me go back to the beginning, because there were a couple questions in early. Aussie2U had a question up early. I was wondering if you happen to find any AI type software that can auto crop portraits based on their eyes or detecting their head. And this was a question that actually came up last week, and I said I would do some research. Aussie2U, I did do a little bit of research. In fact, I reached out to a company that I have had some interaction with in the past, who is working on AI processing software, right? And just to see if they were aware of anything, or for that matter, even if that was in their roadmap. And literally, when I asked the question, I had a phone call, and when I asked the question, it was kind of crickets on the other end of the phone, while I could clearly hear the person thinking it through, and they were not aware of anyone. And on their end, it was not something they had considered, and he found it to be something that they probably would not deal with, at least not for the immediate time being. And that's primarily because when you talk about auto crop a portrait can be too many things, and a portrait can be cropped too many ways. It can be horizontal, it can be vertical, portraits can be tight, portraits can be more of a traditional bust up. And then when you're going to add in, have people crop it based on where their eyes are or detecting their head and things like that, there's just way too many options at play. My recommendation, Aussie, to you is that there's no need for software like that. So let me explain. If you're shooting portraits, and let's assume, I'm going to make an assumption here. Let's assume that your portraits are going to need to be printed. So you're going to need 5x7s or 8x10s, 11x14s, whatever. You should be cropping them in camera. Period. Now, if you're shooting street photography and you're shooting events and you're just doing, grab shots and you're calling those portraits, that's not really portraiture, Aussie, right? So, but if you're shooting portraits where the person's, pausing, posing, sitting, standing, whatever, for a head and shoulder type portrait, crop it in camera. And you don't need AI software to auto crop because the thing that you all have to understand about, AI technology, gang, and about computational photography. Computational photography is the future, and it's amazing. Pay attention to it. Read about it. Get your head wrapped around it. Everything that we do moving forward is going to have some degree of computational photography involved. When it comes to AI, one thing that the camera is never going to be able to do, never, it's never going to be able to understand exactly how we see it or exactly how we want it. So, they can do a lot of generalized things. Like, for instance, the OM, okay? The OM1, excuse me. They now have, AI autofocus for dogs. And on the Asia website, if you click around, they have a great video example of a dog running an obstacle course. And man, the tracking on that is like amazing, right? But it's basically, the camera's basically, you're telling it, just focus on the dog, period, okay? So we could use it to, basically say, hey, we're going to focus on someone, but to tell it, look, if it's a head, we always want this kind of a crop. It's also going to require you to provide that kind of crop to the camera, because if you don't provide that crop, it can't make the crop, right? So Aussie says here, I'm trying to shoot wide on black and provide multiple crops from the same image. Make some templates then. I mean, honestly, what I would simply do is I would make yourself a set of Photoshop templates where you're cropping the image from there. But I don't think you're going to find it. Man, you've got a very specialized niche need. You have to understand that all of this computational stuff, all this AI stuff, they have to start with the masses. Remember when the EM1X came out for Olympus? Everybody was like, why is the AI autofocus for planes, trains, and automobiles? Like, who cares, right? Well, part of the reason it's for trains, because in Japan, photographing trains, remember, they have those super high-speed bullet trains and stuff, right? In Japan, trains are like huge amongst photographers. So it was a big deal for them to program trains. Here in the US, we're kind of like, why do we need the AI autofocus for trains, right? Now it's a little more practical because we've got dogs and, all this other stuff. But the challenge is when you're doing like niche projects like that, you want to look to solve your problem other ways. And basically the way you're describing it, it honestly sounds like you should just be making some templates for your post-production and working that way. Be a whole lot easier. Okay. All right. Scrolling on up here. What else did we have? Let's see. And here we go. Brian. Brian said, I'm practicing using Flash and I want to get a gray background to practice getting gray, black and white with my speed light and one background. Do you prefer paper or cloth background recommendation? Honestly, Brian, it depends on what you like. So let me answer your question in a way that actually allows you to make an informed decision. So obviously a paper background is going to be smooth. So right out of the box, assuming you want a smooth background, paper's the way to go. If you go with a cloth background, you have options. Do you want that cloth background to have some waves and texture and shape to it? Or do you want the cloth background to also be smooth? So if you want the cloth background to be smooth, you can't just hang the cloth background. You also have to have a bottom bar to weight it and spread it. Otherwise, it will get wavy. Or for that matter, if you have that cloth background made from a material that wrinkles and creases, it's also going to have wrinkles and creases in it. So you have to steam it. So in my opinion, for smooth backgrounds, paper is the way to go, period. Or vinyl. Vinyl's more expensive and it's a lot heavier. Only use vinyl backgrounds if you're going to permanently mount them to the wall or to the ceiling, because they are super heavy compared to paper, right? You don't want to put a vinyl background on light stands. It's just not going to. They better be seriously heavy-duty light stands, like C stands. So that's really the big choice, is what kind of, cloth background do you want? If you want like a canvas or a muslin background where you want it to have some texture to it, well, then obviously cloth is better. You're not going to get that with a paper background. But I have a feeling you're looking for a smooth background, in which case paper all the way. It's a ton easier. Okay. All right. Next question. Hey guys, we still got some time, so by all means, toss some questions in there. Let's see. Richard here, just making some comments about Olympus. Watched the UK presentation yesterday. A lot of new updated features. Great price point. Yeah, I mean, Richard, obviously you're a big fan. It is a lot of really good updates for Olympus. When it comes to the big revolutionary things, there's a couple little things. A lot of big updates, but yes, it's definitely an overdue upgrade for Olympus, and I think it's the right set of upgrades for Olympus. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see here. Darren, being an active mountain biker, the OM1 looked impressive outdoors, shooting a mountain biking commercial for Specialized by Chris. Yep. So, all right, cool. So let's see here. Scrolling on down. Dwayne Norfleet, bought a camera on Amazon and found out I can't register it. It's gray market. Whoa. Luckily I can return it, but the only way I found out was I couldn't register it. What's your opinion on this? Dwayne, the first thing I'd want to do, so I'm not saying that it's your fault. But the first thing you should do is you need to go back to that Amazon page, the actual product page, and you need to read really, really carefully. Scour that page and make sure that it makes no reference to where the camera is from, okay? Because they don't have to label it as gray market, but they can say something like, European warranty or Asian warranty, which for us, that means it's gray market, right? So check all of that stuff first. If they've mentioned it and you just missed it, which is possible, it's an honest mistake, that just means that the company that's selling it is being a little bit sleazy in the way that they're doing it. They should have been more upfront. If it's not mentioned at all, and if you're absolutely positive, I mean, I'm talking scour that page. If it's not mentioned at all, you should be reaching out to Amazon's customer service, not just about the return, but you should make sure that you're filing a complaint through Amazon's customer service with that against that company, against that retailer on Amazon, so that Amazon is made aware that they are using misleading business practices. I'm sure that some attorney could come along and probably have a whole bunch of things that if you want to be a litigious person, you could maybe go after the reseller. Good luck going after Amazon, right? But is that worth it? In my opinion, no, it's not. So yeah, it's just, number one, make sure that they didn't just kind of get one over on you by downplaying the information, which I've seen that happen on Amazon, unfortunately. And then, if they didn't mention it at all, then you want to contact Amazon. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Photo Bob, my business is high volume sports and schools. The OM1 doesn't do anything for me there, but my hobby is wildlife and action, and I think they hit a home run with this. Yeah. Again, very nice upgrade for people that are shooting Olympus. They should be very excited about it. Okay. Let's see here from Hector. If your camera is always set at the same spot, use the sync option on Lightroom and hit the same crop on batch. Yeah, so there you go. Actually, Aussie, that would be one way to approach that. Hector, good problem solving there. Thank you. So that would absolutely be one way that you could approach it. And I'm sure, even if we were to crowdsource that, not that I'm a big fan of, going into a Facebook group and throwing a question out there. So, pick and choose your Facebook group carefully, right? But, and provide lots of detail about what you're trying to do. Just like you just saw Hector come up with a solution, you may well be able to, come up with some really good information that would give you a kind of a solid approach to that. Okay. All right. Wow, you guys are letting me off the hook. Are we going to finish early tonight? Am I actually going to finish early? So actually, while you guys are maybe typing another question in, I mentioned WPPI before, but you know what I didn't do? I didn't give you the code to get the free trade show pass. So for those of you that are going to Vegas, I just put it in the chat. The code is Edelman, right? So you can get a free trade show pass with that link and that code. Or if you want to do the full conference, you can get $40 off a conference pass. And it's worth noting, in the last 2 weeks, WPPI has announced that all the camera manufacturers are back, except for OM System. Olympus is not there. Understandably, WPPI is wedding and portraits, so they're not going to be there. But Nikon, Canon, Sony, and I believe Panasonic and Fuji, they are all in now. They're all going to be there. So it's going to be really cool, because it's been a couple of years since we have had a trade show here in the United States with all the manufacturers there. Even back, 2019, the last Photo Plus that I was at, Sony pulled out of that. The last WPPI, Nikon wasn't there because they did CES instead. So it's going to be nice to actually go to a trade show and have, everybody represented. And the fact that happened, there are a lot of other smaller manufacturers in that had originally passed on WPPI that are signing back up now. So the trade show is growing. And the educational track for WPPI is awesome. It's always awesome. So if you're in Vegas, near Vegas, can get to Vegas, I highly recommend the show. Great educational program, and this will be the first time we've had all the manufacturers under one roof in quite a long time. So, whoops, Richard says the link's not working. Guess it got cut off. That's not good. Let me grab the link for you then again. Thanks for that heads up, Richard. There you go. There's the, that should work. Let's just click it. Yep, that one works. Okay, so you're good to go there. Danny, you will be at the trade show. Awesome. So yeah, I'll be wandering around. I'm not doing any booth demos or anything like that. WPPI is a show for me where I usually do a lot of networking. There are some companies that I have some meetings set up with, that kind of stuff. So aside from my seminar program and my photo walk, I will be in the trade show. I do believe, I haven't gotten the schedule yet, but I do believe probably one of the easiest ways to find me will be to go to where they're doing portfolio reviews. They did ask me if I would be willing to do portfolio reviews while I'm there. So I know on day 2, so that's what, the second and the third, I'm supposed to be doing portfolio reviews for like a good portion of the day. So wherever that's going to be, you'll probably find the best, your best shot at catching me there. And just look for the red shirt. I'll be there with a shirt. Okay. All right. So listen, do you guys have any other questions? Is there anything else I can tell you? Because I'll gladly end early tonight. It's been a long day today. But make sure that you go check out the website, the portfolio. Definitely make sure you sign up for Visual Storyteller Conference. Okay. And for those of you that are Olympus shooters, absolutely make sure you check out the OM1. I would encourage you, once it's actually in stores, which will be next month, go take a look at it, get your hands on it. But I will tell you straight up, I'm a big believer in the idea of, using, if you shoot with multiple cameras, work with the same cameras. So, if you're going to make the upgrade, you should make the upgrade by trading in whichever camera you have now, or the cameras you have now, and then you go with 2 identical cameras. That way, when you switch from one camera to the next, you don't have to think about your gear, right? That would be the main reason for doing that. But gang, if that's all your questions for tonight, I'm going to thank you for tuning in. I'm not going to drag this out anymore. I'm not a big gear person, but I wanted to acknowledge that this camera came out. I am impressed with what Olympus has done with it. And again, I hope that they continue to innovate, which they're doing. And I wish them all the best success. And who knows, I may wind up using one of these down the road. We'll see. But in the meantime, have a great week. I will see you guys next week before WPPI. I won't be broadcasting the week of WPPI because I will be in Vegas. And I'm going to enjoy some downtime while I'm in Vegas too, as well as doing the show. But again, have a great week. Get out and shoot. And as always, remember, your best shot, it's your next shot, gang. Adios. Take care.